I've got to tell you how I messed up. I made a huge mistake, and I'm going to share that with you right now in this video. So on Instagram, I've seen, and you're encouraged to kind of let people behind the scenes so that they can see your works in progress. And the painting that I'm painting here in this video, I got to a point and I'm like, ooh, I kind of like where I'm at, but I knew I wasn't finished just yet. I was at like a halfway point. And so I decided to share it, my quote unquote hashtag WIP, work in progress, right? And of course, I post it, and all of a sudden I start getting these likes and these comments, and I'm like, okay, which is interesting. Sometimes my stuff is hit or miss on Instagram, so I'm eager to read like what people have to say. And one of my favorite artists comments, and she comments like, hey, I love this, don't overwork it. Now, when I posted my picture of this painting in that halfway point, you know, I labeled it my work in progress, and that I needed to kind of step away from it. And so having one of my favorite artists tell me that they love it where it currently is, don't overwork it, I'm like, oh. Another person commented, and she's like, oh, I love this, I feel like I could just walk right into it. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then another person commented, they were like, this is beautiful, I love it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so like I get to looking at it, and I'm like, you know, I really do like it kind of where it is, but there's this feeling that it's just not quite complete. Now, through this experience of painting it, at the current state that it was when I posted my work in progress, I did step back and analyze like where I had kind of gone wrong, and I had veered off from my process a little bit, got a little too finicky in the details, and you can kind of tell that as you watch this painting progress. But let's get back to how posting my work in progress was a huge mistake. Seeing all of these positive comments, like that they love it, that they felt like they could walk right into it, that it was beautiful, that it looked great the way it was, all that stuff, this really started making me question whether I should just be done with the painting. Was I being too nitpicky still with this particular painting? Should I just sign it and be like, okay, it is done, 'tis it, love it, there we go. And it really got me questioning my own judgment about this particular piece. Was I being too critical? Was I being too harsh on it? You know, was it fine the way that it was? So that really kind of messed me up. I, you know, had set out and like, oh, I'm not done, I'm going to come back to it. And now, like at this point, I'm questioning like, oh, should I go back to it? Because all these people are saying that they love it. And once again, I'm going to reiterate, one of them is one of my favorite artists, professional artists. This is what she does, and she is amazing. And I'm just like, oh, but she loved it. And next part, she warned, don't overwork it. So now I'm afraid if like, oh, I'm going to start messing with it and I'm going to overwork it. Or does she think that I'm overworking it now, that it looks overworked? Or if I go back, does she know that I'm going to overwork it? And so then I'm going back and forth. Is it overworked? I'm afraid if I, you know, start putting paint and start messing with it, like I'm eventually going to overwork it, and this is not going to be good. So all of these questions, should I finish it? Should I just be done with it? Should I go back and paint it? Should I, you know, be careful because I might overwork it? Did I already overwork it? All these things, questioning my own judgment. And then another thing, then this kind of hit me later, is that all these hashtags, people are going to find it, and if they don't read the description that this is a work in progress, like this might just look like I make not so great art, and they might be like, oh. So if you would like to find out what happens, make sure that you join me for part 2. Subscribe so that you get notified when I post it. Bye.